we're working through all the video tutorials of the Singer Elite SE017. But if you have a serger and you have been wanting to do a rolled hem, these tips will assist you in getting the perfect looking stitch. And also, what are you looking for as you do this? So a 3-thread rolled hem does require that you take out the outside needle. Now this is not one that you can just unthread the needle. You actually need to physically remove it. So make sure that you take some scissors. I clip down at the bottom. Let's just pull this right on out and then take the spool off the machine. If it's not in use, let's not leave it to dangle and come back in later. That is people do that and that doesn't work. Next, I'm going to just slide a little piece of fabric underneath where my needles are. That way I can easily make sure I don't let go of that needle and it drops into the serger. You could do that with a little piece of paper too. So we're coming up here to the B screw, and then as you loosen it, just let it drop out and then tighten it all the way up. You don't want to leave it just partially loose. It will vibrate out later, and that's no fun to find little tiny screws on your floor. The next thing to really get a good rolled hem is to adjust and pull out the stitch finger. So right here's a little button, and as you pull it out, you're going to notice something moving kind of behind your knife. So I want you to look down there, push that little stitch finger back in, and then pull it out. And you're going to see that finger, which normally supports the overlock stitches as they're formed, is not going to be there. So what's going to happen is the stitches are going to kind of collapse and they're going to roll around your fabric, hence part of how we get a rolled hem. By the way, just by doing nothing else but by pulling that stitch finger back, you are going to get a really pretty stitch. So I'm going to actually do this before we get to the final settings here. It will narrow down the 3-thread to give you a very delicate sized stitch. So compared to this 3-thread, it's like half the size. So it's really, really nice to work with. So traditionally, a rolled hem is often short in stitch length, so it becomes more solid looking. So over here, you're going to definitely find where we can take our stitch length to the smallest settings. And the other thing that makes this work is that we are going to tighten the lower looper, and as we do, it's going to pull the upper looper all the way around our fabric and then be on the top, the side, and the back. And so whatever thread is in your upper looper here today is going to be my pink thread. That's the one you're going to see. So if you're looking to match thread, you only really need one, maybe something close in the needle, because you'll see that on the top. But on the back on the lower looper, we're going to tuck this little yellow way underneath, and only if you turn it over and look will you actually see that color. So your dominant color should be the upper looper. To get it to pull over, we're going to tighten this anywhere from 2 to 3 numbers total. So I was at 3. So let's just move it to 6 and see what we have. We've also shortened the stitch length. So it does mean that it'll take a little longer to stitch, but it does really make it look pretty. Now, if you get it too close together and it starts to pile up, just lengthen that stitch length out a little bit, which I might do just for speed today. I feel like I got it a little dense, but I feel too, see how this is almost kind of like fringe? There's almost not enough fabric caught in this, and the last thing I did is I had moved my knife really close to the needles. So I'm going to push against this knife and actually bring that out a little further so there's enough fabric to even roll in the first place. So let's just kind of compare that from that setting. To now having a little bit more, ooh, I like this already. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So this was the first one I did, and you can see it kind of got a little wiggly, and there really wasn't much fabric to kind of twist over. But as soon as I made that cutting width a little wider, look how I gave it like almost a little body inside. It really looks sharp as it went over the edge there. So that's beautiful. Now if I wanted to shorten that stitch length, I could definitely get it exactly the way I want it. This is also a good one if you're working with any decorative threads. You only need 1 spool. That decorative thread is going to go in that upper looper. You might need to adjust your tension to accommodate, say, a thicker, chunkier thread. That would mean by loosening the tension it's going through, because we'd put in the upper looper, so that's going to be the pink or purple one here. And you might need to give the lower looper a little bit more strength so it can actually pull something that is chunkier around that edge better. So you will just need to adjust those just a little bit with decorative threads. Well, I hope you'll use the rolled hem. Here is a little tip. When you have pulled that stitch finger back, as a newbie, we tend to forget, because we're all excited when our rolled hem project is done, is leave yourself like a little sticky note here, like push the stitch finger back in. That way you don't forget at the end of your project that needs to go back in. Probably a very common thing people ask me about is they got this really wimpy 4-thread overlock. It's like only like half the size. I'm like, oh yes, the stitch finger. Were you doing a rolled hem recently? And they're like, yes. Oh no, I forgot to push it back in. So until you get used to how that is to look, push that back in or leave yourself a little note, a little reminder, a little pop-up alarm on your phone. That will make all the difference in the world. So I hope you have some fun with rolled hemming. Check out all of our videos that we have done on this Singer Elite SE017 so you can master your machine from start to finish.